What I want to do today is to talk to you about the presence of the Welsh language on TikTok and hopefully convince you that TikTok is possibly not what you think it is. Okay, younger people might be aware of this. Those of us who are a bit older think it's all about funny dance routines, lip syncing songs, and so on. Okay, so hopefully I'm going to move you away from that particular thought. So, first thing I want to do is establish why we might think TikTok would actually matter. Okay, it's just another social media platform, but I want to talk about this specifically for Welsh. I'm not making any claims about its potential for Cornish or Breton or any other language. Okay, I think context is important. We need to understand the role of particular technologies in the context of the language. So, here is a bit of data from the Student Health and Wellbeing Survey that shows us that 31% of 7 to 8-year-olds use a social media site a few times a week or every day. And as we look up the graph, by the time we get to 10 to 11-year-olds, we're looking at 65% of children using a social media site a few times a week or every day. Bearing in mind that the age at which you're allowed to sign up for a social media site is almost invariably 13. Okay, so that gives us some context. Maybe we're interested in it because it's a social media platform. The same survey gives us this data, which is what children are using their electronic devices for. So we have speaking to family, 51% of their activities. We have watching TV, 71%, and at the bottom there we have watching videos. 88% of children in the 7 to 11 age group are using electronic devices a few times a week or every day to watch videos. Okay, might be YouTube, might be TikTok, but watching videos is a significant activity for these children. We also have some data specifically about TikTok. So this is from Ofcom, the telecoms regulator. In Wales, 36% of adults aged 15 plus used TikTok, and they used it for an average of 34 minutes a day. However, if you look down to the 15 to 24-year-olds, 79% of them used TikTok, and they used it for an average of 69 minutes a day. Okay, so there is significant consumption of TikTok by young people in Wales. And those aged 15 to 24 spent more time on average per day on TikTok than any other social media site, with the possible exception of YouTube, because their data they were able to access didn't include YouTube. Okay, but within the Welsh context, TikTok, I would argue, is significant. So what I then did was thought, that's quite interesting. Let's go and see what I can find out. So I was inspired by a couple of pieces of work by Mia Garcia and Tudela Isanta, who looked at the Catalan language. They looked at TikTok use there. And my work is loosely based on their method. So what we did is we generated a corpus of 200 videos, and I use corpus in a kind of loose, casual sense rather than the technical sense in which you might be using it. We searched for the hashtag Cymraeg, and we collected the first 150 videos that TikTok offered to us. So one of the things we need to bear in mind as we go through this presentation is we are using TikTok to give us the corpus. So in many ways, it's going to be giving us the fittest videos according to its algorithms. So whatever it prioritizes, it's going to be using that to select them. So we picked 150 of those videos. We then looked at the other hashtags that we used alongside Cymraeg in those videos. We identified TikTok Cymraeg and Cymraeg Talk as the two most popular ones. So we then queried again on those hashtags and added 25 videos from each of those into the 150 to give us our 200 videos. Okay, and we checked that they were all unique, there were no duplicates and so on. And we collected this data back in May. So the 200 videos were produced by 70 different accounts, not necessarily 70 different people. Among those accounts, there were a lot of individual accounts. There were also political party accounts. S4C had an account in there, the broadcaster. The Wales national football teams had an account in there. So it's a mix of organisations and individuals. We could see that most of the accounts in the sample produced only one video in the sample. But we've got a couple of outliers on the end here that produced 23 videos and 38 videos in the sample. So these are kind of our sort of super producers within the sample. So the BF Davies account produced 23 videos in the sample, and we can see it has just over 53,000 followers and 2.2 million likes. So these accounts are generating big numbers. Farland of Sperum, and that's not a typo, had 38 videos in the sample. The account had more than 82,000 followers and had accumulated more than 3.2 million likes. So again, these content producers are getting serious engagement. We subjected our corpus to various sorts of analysis. One thing we did was to look at the form of the videos. This is kind of a genre, I guess, following work done by Schellenwald. They have the comedic, documentary, communal, explanatory and interactive form. So communal is to do with videos that involve family and friends. Interactive are kind of more meme, challenge-based activities and so on. Schellenwald also had a meta category which he used to track videos that were about TikTok, but the Catalan studies reinterpreted that to mean metalinguistic, so talking about language rather than talking about TikTok, and we followed that convention. We also added a learning code as well, because we saw a lot of videos that were to do with language learning. Our coding then, you could pick one of the kind of genre categories. You could have that just by itself, or you could add to it meta, so you could have a comedic meta video, or you could add to it learning, so you could have an explanatory learning video. And if we look across the bottom, we can see that most of the videos were single coded, so it's just a comedic video, it was just a communal video, and so on. 58 of the 200 were a form plus meta, so they had some aspect of metalinguistic discussion in them, and 40 of them involved a category plus learning. So we can see that across the different categories, that metalinguistic content and that language learning content form a significant component of the corpus. If we look down code plus meta, we can see, there's a kind of fairly broad distribution across comedic, documentary, and so on. But if we look at code plus learning, we'll see that there are 26 videos that were just kind of language learning, 6 that were explanatory and language learning, and 8 that were comedic and language learning, but they didn't feature in the other categories. So there's kind of a difference in that mix of genres between the meta and the language. Of course, we looked at hashtags because everybody loves a hashtag. So the videos, we observed between 0 and 34 hashtags per video, with a mean of just over 9 and a median of 8, and 588 different hashtags used within the 200 video corpus. So what we've done here is we've kind of broken them down to kind of languages and language learning, ones to do with countries and identities, ones that are about TikTok, ones that are just account names, and ones that are other. And what we can see, perhaps not surprisingly given the hashtags used to generate the corpus, that we have a lot of tags to do with languages and learning. So the top one, Cymraeg, was used for 164 of the 200 videos. Celtic comes in just at the bottom there, mentioned in 26 of the videos, so that's handy given the context where we are today. History there is the highest other, and that was used to tag 13 of the videos. So the tagging space, if you like, is very much around language learning, and different identities, some of which are to do with Welsh identity, some are kind of a British UK identity, Celtic identity, and so on. So people are signaling different things through the hashtags they're using, making them findable in these different ways. We then looked at, I wasn't quite sure what to call it. I've changed it several times. I've gone with people performing bilingualism, which has some interesting resonances with the last presentation. So Darwin talks about different languages coming together on TikTok, with languages sort of being kind of separated, with them being intermingled. So Welsh and English will be intermingled with each other. There'll be different layers of language use and maybe different meanings in the different layers. So it's a very complicated multilingual space. So what I did is I went through, and for each of the 200 videos, I looked at its speech content, its text content, its sung content. I don't know why I called it music. Songs, let's call them songs, and the text description that sits underneath the video. I tagged those which were purely in Welsh, those were a mix of languages, mostly English and Welsh, but also some other languages, and those that were in English only. And if we look at, let's say, songs, okay, we'll see songs is actually quite monolingual. There are 19 videos that had a song that was just in Welsh. There were 25 that had a song that was just in English, and there are only 2 that had a song that featured both Welsh and English. Okay, whereas if you look at some other categories, if you look at speech, for example, okay, we've got 35 where the speech is only in Welsh, we've got 43 where it's only in English, and then we've got 80 where it's a mix of Welsh, English, and some other languages. Okay, so we can see slightly different patterns in terms of how much content is in each language, depending on which modality it is. So I thought that was kind of a bit of an interesting observation as well. If we look at descriptions, okay, we've got 34 that were Welsh only, 33 that were mixed, and 105 that were only English. And more than half of the corpus, the text description of the video, was only in English. Okay, so again, we can see these bilingual users making choices about what language they're going to use in different modalities, maybe aimed at different audiences, and so on. So what I wanted to do was just to give, oh, no I didn't. I always do that to myself, put on a little bit that I forget about. So we coded 556 individual elements, so the speech in a video, the text description, and so on. 56% of them included some Welsh, 79% of them included some English. Okay? There were only 23 videos which only contained Welsh in all these elements, and 52 videos which only contained elements that were coded for English. So there is an imbalance, okay, but there is also quite a lot of mixing and use of both languages together. So just to give you an example, I'm not going to play a video because I don't trust playing a video during a presentation. So I've got 2 examples. So this is Sage Todds, who is a rapper. This is one of his videos. We can look at the hashtags. They're mostly English. We can see it's got over 9,000 views. It's got over 800 likes and 60 comments. And given that this video was uploaded the same month the corpus was created, that shows some quite interesting early engagement with the video. So the main video is a performance. It's a rap. So it's essentially a music video in its basic form. Over the song he sings is partly in English and partly in Welsh. At the bottom, as he sings the video, the words that he is singing are shown. So it's got subtitles, but not translations. So when he's singing in Welsh, the text is in Welsh. When he's singing in English, the text is in English, plus a few emojis thrown in there as well. Okay? Then, at the beginning of the video and the end of the video, there's this kind of audience-directed message. So it's not to do with what he's singing. So at the beginning he introduces himself. So my name's Sage Todds, I'm a rapper from North Wales, so he's expressing his identity, not even just Wales, North Wales specifically, who actually uses the Welsh language. Okay, and he's telling people this in English. Okay, presumably if you speak Welsh, you know he's using the Welsh language. Okay, but he's kind of making that introduction, making that statement about himself. At the end of the video, towards the end of the video, he again reaches out to the audience and he says, tag anyone you know from Wales. Share if this is the first time hearing Welsh rap. So he's reaching out to his audience and asking them to do things, to engage in terms of sharing, liking, and so on. Okay, so we see this kind of meta level of reaching out to the audience. So again, interesting things, interesting different ways that the languages are being used. Okay, the second video I want to talk about is my favorite native Welsh flag emoji, names. Okay, the video description is in English and all it says is, the third is my personal fave. Smiley, happy, lovey face. Hashtags, a mix of Welsh and English, including Welsh language class on the end, dosbarth Cymraeg. Uploaded 25th of April, had 16,700 views. Okay, and again, given that the corpus was collected in May, that's quite a lot of views over quite a short period of time. Nearly 2,000 likes and 152 comments. So this, my favorite, insert indigenous local language of your choice, names, is almost a meme on TikTok. Almost any interesting language you can find, someone will have produced a video giving you their favorite 5 names or their favorite 10 names or their favorite girls' names. Okay, it's a very popular genre. So here we have Bethan. She starts off at the beginning explaining that people often ask her what her favorite names are, her favorite Welsh names, and she says she's going to tell us her top 5 favorite names. So we've got a little title as well. She then goes through, tells you the names. You'll notice here she's actually pointing up, so she's actually referencing the text. Yeah, so she's telling us how to pronounce it. So Pidyn Drewllyd, Pidyn Drewllyd. Okay, and she explained to us this is a male name, it means strong, it means warrior. Okay, so you get a sense of kind of, oh yeah, this baby that I'm going to have, this young child, this is a good, strong name for them. At the end of the video, she again asks the audience, which are your favorite names? Comment down below, tell me what the names are that you are interested in. So it's mostly in English, it's got the Welsh names, it's got that engagement with the audience. And of course, what every Welsh speaker in this room knows, and if anyone is thinking that actually that is quite a nice name, please do not use this name for your child. Okay? This is a spoof video. Okay? Pidyn Drewllyd actually translates as stinking penis. Okay? And all the names in the video are mildly rude. Okay? So we've got someone using the language, tapping into that whole favorite names meme, but also having a joke, playing with the language, as again we heard in the previous presentation. So mentioned a couple of times there that idea of engaging with the audience. So what sort of audience engagement did we see with the videos in the corpus? So there are various things that TikTok will tell us about videos. So the number of views range between 217 and 6 million. Okay, so one of the videos in the corpus was viewed round about 6 million times. I guess it rounds it, so more than 6 million times. Okay, the arithmetic mean of the number of views, 167,000. Okay, but remember, these are the fittest videos according to TikTok's algorithm. So they're the ones it's most likely to promote. It might be that the high viewer numbers are the reason it was picked. Okay, so this shouldn't be seen as a representative sample. Okay, this is clearly not a representative sample. Okay, but so this is the top end sample, if you like. Number of likes. Okay, one video got 12 likes. Another got 380,000 likes. Okay, so that's an individual who's not just watched the video, they've decided to take the action of actively liking it. And an arithmetic mean of just over 17,000 per video. Okay, these are big numbers. Okay, when you think the whole population of Wales is about 3 million, okay, these are big numbers. Number of comments. Okay, so this is now someone they've not just watched your video, they may or may not have liked it, they've actually taken the trouble to say something, yeah, to type you a response. Between 0 and 4,700 odd comments per video, yeah, with an arithmetic mean of just over 350. So in my corpus, for those 200 non-representative videos, for each video that goes up, on average, you will get 350 comments. So arguably, you could say, you know, TikTok perhaps isn't a video sharing platform. It's actually a text-based discussion forum that happens to start with a video. Yeah, in terms of where the content that is sitting there is coming from. And there were only 9 videos in my 200 video sample that had no comments. Okay. So having comments on your video in this corpus is typical. It's what you would expect. And I'm kind of interested in comments. I'm interested in what happens when you use a minority language online. And we see a range of responses. So I've picked out some kind of fairly typical ones. So first there is the kind of Me Too response. So here we've got real Katie Williams, who said, "Me actually happy I learned Welsh." Okay, that's her comment in response to watching this TikTok video that has Welsh in it. She chose to say it in English, but there we go. Megan said, "That's so cool. My great-grandparents were from Wales." So not a Welsh speaker, but an affiliation, a connection. Yeah, some sense of community there with the language. We get the negative ones. So user just said gibberish. Okay, that's a really polite response. Okay, the response that unfortunately wasn't from this data set, from this corpus, but was from TikTok, that has stuck with me is someone who said, "The ugliest language I have ever heard a woman speak," in response to a video. And then they said, "By the way, I'm an Irish speaker." So what can you say? Yeah, but gibberish is quite a polite response. And then we've got the kind of "I've just learned something new" responses. So here we have totally different language, shocked face, sweaty, happy face, really happy face, loving face, unbelievable. Okay, so they've learned this whole new language that I've never heard of. And again, we can think about the impact of these things on speakers and non-speakers. Yeah, people who don't even know the language exists have now discovered the language, have heard the language. Okay, this sounds like Dutch or Swedish or something like that. Okay, I don't speak Dutch or Swedish, but to my ear, it doesn't sound like either of those languages. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who said, "Oh, sounds like Cornish." Okay, it invariably seems to be, here's a language I haven't heard. It sounds like some other language I don't speak. Yeah, and pick your language, insert them in there. We also see various tropes and memes. So Welsh is Elvish. Is someone anybody who's worked with the Welsh language knows this. Welsh sounds like what they speak in Lord of the Rings. Okay, this sounds like a fantasy language. Okay, my favourite comment in this genre was actually from Facebook several years ago, where the comment was, "Welsh is just a crappy form of Elvish." Which I just laughed, and I know you shouldn't, or maybe I shouldn't, I don't know, but it was funny. It is funny, right? Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so we get these tropes about the language, we see them coming back up. We also get what Darwin has called context-bound memes. So these are memes, but they're memes within a particular context, so within a particular language, within a particular locality, within a particular, social setting or whatever. And what's interesting about these, again, is that I've seen them in different places at different times over the years. Big Vern, anyone know what microwave is on Welsh? microdon. It's really not funny. Okay, except we know it's funny and we know why it's funny. Samuel Morris, how do you say 100 in Welsh? Cant. It's not funny. Except we know why it's funny. What's interesting, okay, is that these mimetic comments require you to have a certain understanding of Welsh in order to understand why these questions are funny, but they're being asked in English. Yeah, this is the original language in which they were posted. Okay, so I don't know if these two people are, would self-identify as Welsh speakers. They may know just enough Welsh or have come across these memes enough before and understood what's behind them to realise that they're funny and they can be propagated. So, just to kind of wrap up, in what way would I argue that TikTok might support the Welsh language's sustainability and vitality? Learning Welsh. A lot of material on there that is Welsh classes, how to say things in Welsh, particular aspects of learning Welsh. There is a lot of metalinguistic discourse about the Welsh language, which might allow us to maybe challenge negative views, promote positive views, present examples of young people living their lives through the medium of Welsh in a very positive way. Expressing the celebration of a range of identities, whether that's North Walian, whether it's Welsh speaking, whether it's Celtic, all sorts of different levels of identity and belonging can be expressed. Building visibility and enhancing the status, creating communities, so around different themes, around different subject areas. The fact that it creates a whole lot of new content and new content creators. It opens that process of content creation to you or I, anyone with a mobile phone. And we also see some traditional media organizations, so broadcasters and so on, bringing their content or creating new content, bringing it into TikTok to maybe connect with those younger users who might not necessarily be consuming broadcast media. So, quick word about limitations. The corpus creation is somewhat opaque. I can't tell you on what basis TikTok has recommended those videos to me once I enter the search term, and it does not represent the lived experience of TikTok users. Okay, it's a fake, non-representative way of looking at the content. Even when we've got all these numbers, it's hard to judge the level of vitality and whether it's changing over time. Are those good numbers? I mean, they feel like big numbers. Should it be more than that? Is that twice as much as we might have hoped for? I don't know. No, we don't know what those measurements should be. And the kind of one that I'm most interested in, what effect, if any, is this having on people's perception of the language? Does it make them feel differently about it, whether they speak it or not? Does it have any effect on their language use? Does someone see a TikTok video and go, oh, next time I'm in the shop, instead of saying thank you, I'm going to say diolch? Or, yeah, I can speak a bit of Welsh, maybe I should use it a bit more. I don't know. Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting stuff. How can we actually support and maintain and increase use, increase confidence, and so on? So, conclusions, I wowould suggest to you, within certain contexts at least, that TikTok should be taken seriously if you are interested in studying minority languages and if you are interested in promoting minority languages. I think you can certainly argue this for Welsh. Different contexts, it might vary. And I would also say, if the young people you are interested in having speak your language are on TikTok, then that and other social media sites should be seen as a critical site for action to promote the language and to promote its use. Those are my contact details. There is my very underused Twitter account, and I will also self-promote by mentioning that there is a paper based on this work that has been accepted for publication in New Media and Society, where you'll get all of the details, all of the background context, and things like that as well, if it's of interest to you. And because of some funding arrangement that I don't quite understand, it'll be open source as well. So you'll be able to download it for free. So thank you very much, everyone.
We got time for questions, I think. Yeah, we can take a couple of questions.
Hey, Daniel, thanks.
Hi.
Couple of questions. Is TikTok localized to Welsh?
Not to the best of my knowledge. So if anyone can, no.
Okay, it's interesting. I've worked on localization a little bit, and I'm always curious to see, when a community moves to a platform, is it available to them in their language?
Because in the literature, as you'll know, some people have said yes, it's very important to have the interface localized, otherwise people will feel they can't use their language. I don't know. My sense, and it's just an intuition, is that when people arrive on a social media platform, as long as they can understand how to do things, they will use their language of choice. And I don't imagine that there are many people when they arrive on TikTok and they go, oh, the interface is all in English, I better not use Welsh. There might be, but I imagine that's a small minority. It's an interesting question.
So some people would say there's that cognitive cost of switching from one language to the other and things like that to kind of slow the process down. A follow-on question to that is, was there any of the comedic stuff written in Welsh?
Yes. Oh yes.
And can you? I guess I'm wondering. So the background to my question there is that I find learners struggle to create humorous content in the language they're learning, and it's often the sign of an advanced learner that they can create a joke, make a joke, kind of do something ironic, sarcastic. It shows a lot of different proficiencies, social and linguistic, that's kind of
but again, what you've got to remember is the people who are producing these videos, some of them are learners, some of them are teachers, some of them are just people with average proficiency. Okay. And one of the interesting things that I've seen argued about kind of social media and generally is the idea that it liberates people to use the language they have. So even if someone only has a few words, this sort of environment allows them to use those few words alongside the majority language. I'd have to go and check to see exactly how many of them, the comedic ones. I was having a quick look through to see if I could work out from any of the slides how many of them were Welsh, the comedic ones. I can't say at the moment. I can have a look.
It'd be really cool to look into that to see were the traditional speakers or the native speakers, were they more prone to joking in English or in Welsh?
And again, I think TikTok as a resource for researchers allows us to kind of explore those sorts of questions. And I think for me at least, this study has basically, I've gone from one question to 10 questions now. I've answered the question, is there Welsh on TikTok? But that's the first question.
No, definitely. So, it's a register that isn't taught in the classroom, the language that's used there. So it's really
and again, that idea of people using their language playfully in creative ways, as we heard earlier, I think is again a characteristic of this medium.
Thanks, Daniel. That was great. So I've just decided to create a TikTok account now.
Oh, good choice.
So I don't know whether you use the API. I was just having a quick look while you were talking. But what's the terms and conditions? Can you download, annotate, but also release a corpus?
Okay. I was asked this yesterday when I mentioned my work to someone. They said, "What about?" Oh, yeah. Sorry, it was you. Yes. I couldn't remember who it was then. I don't want to. Yeah. And I have several answers to this question, depending on how outrageous I want to be. My kind of fairly moderate answer would be fair use. Okay, I haven't actually downloaded all the 200 videos. What I have is a link to all 200 videos with associated metadata effectively then. Okay, so I've never actually at any point created a folder full of videos. So I think I'm okay on that. In terms of using some examples in a presentation, in a paper, I think I can get away with fair use. Okay, but it's an issue, and as we were talking about, if you do want to create a corpus, where or a corpus of the comments, for instance, would be interesting. If I wanted to take a particular extreme view, which occasionally it amuses me too, I would say that my moral imperative of preserving a minority language trumps any minor indiscretions that might be made around copyright.
Okay, I mean, I'm wondering whether it was like Twitter used to be, so you could release a corpus with a list
Yeah,
of links.
I didn't use I didn't use the API. I did all of this by hand, traditionally, as it were. But it might be, if you check through the terms and conditions, that you can actually create these. But be careful, I think, was the point we arrived at when we were discussing this yesterday.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's really good. Thank you.
Thank you.